Batting leadoff today is Catchpoint. Presenting for Catchpoint are Mark Taller and Shri Sugarkar. Mark and Shri have been with the company for a while now and are going to be dropping some knowledge on us. I cannot wait to hear from them. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. I am going to turn this over to you right now.
Thanks very much. And thanks everyone for joining us today. As mentioned, my name is Mark Taller. I'm a product marketing director here at Catchpoint, and I'm joined today by our VP of product management, Shri Sugarkar, who will be giving a demonstration. What I want to talk to you guys today about is how you can use IPM to monitor hybrid cloud environments in order to not miss what matters most. And what is IPM? I'll get to that in just one second. Let's start with the one basic that we all should know and understand. The internet is your new network, all right? No one has a single network that is only theirs within the confines of their building, their office. Everything is outsourced at some level, all right? You're reliant on a variety of other cloud or other services that are out there in the network, which means you're reliant upon the internet, which is a problem because the internet is not only hideously complex, it's also incredibly fragile. And any of you who are working in IT ops know exactly what I mean by that. But we'll go into that in a second. You're providing some form of service or application, and you are absolutely focused on delivering that service. Everything these days is service-oriented, and everything is requiring, as we discussed, a whole bunch of different pieces of cloud and distributed networking in order to work. Well, one of the problems here is slow is the new down, all right? Even if everything is working, if it's very, very slow and someone's trying to get to your web page or get to your service or get to your application, and it takes 30 seconds to load that, they're not going to go to your application. They're going to go to your competitor. So you've got to be aware of what's going on in the internet, because your applications are fine. You've got them on a variety of different clouds, but everything's going to depend on the core services of the internet, that infrastructure that runs and connects everything. We're talking things like DNS or BGP, a variety of other bits and pieces on there that are making sure that everything can stay connected. As well, those networks have become much more complex over the last decade. IPv4, IPv6, the rise of SASE, things like Cloud Direct Connect, all of these are adding to complexity. And you're no longer just selling to people in New York or delivering applications to people in New England or North America. You've got users all over the globe, and they are dealing with their own local issues when it comes to infrastructure and access. All of this means you need some form of internet performance monitoring to ensure that your private cloud can access the public cloud and that everything is working well together. Let me give you an example here. And I'm not picking on CNN for any particular reason here. They're not necessarily a customer. We're just using them as an example. That blue dot in the lower right corner, that is CNN.com. You can see it on the inset here. That's just the web page. That is simply the web page. Now, in order for that web page to load and display to a visitor, every single one of these other little dots out here are things it has to touch in some way, whether it's making an API call, whether that's an ad loading, whether that's stock ticker, whatever it is. All of this has to be connected and has to touch in order for CNN.com to display properly. On the left here, you can see a fairly standard waterfall diagram, and this is just showing how long it takes for different elements to load. Obviously, this isn't all of them, and you can see some of them are a little longer, some of them a little shorter, and that's fine, but they all add up. And if at the end of the day, it's taking 30 seconds for CNN.com to load, no one's coming to CNN.com. They're all over at MSNBC or somewhere else. So this is where you understand, you can sit here and go, oh, I'm going to look at CNN.com, but it's so much more than just your stuff. Let's take a look at CNN in a more hypothetical distributed model. So that blue dot we were looking at, it's kind of more or less this stuff right here. You got your web servers, you've got your core CMS, there's some of the cloud, but then there's the SASE capabilities over there, your links to, say, stock tickers, your links to weather, and then you've got a variety of different users all over the place. You've got designers in LA, someone who's an editor in New York, users accessing from all over the world, and all of them are trying to get to this one area in the center. Complicated, right? It gets worse. Every single one of those connections is reliant upon the internet infrastructure underneath. So every single one of those connections requires a working ISP, a working DNS, and about 5 other things, which I honestly didn't include here because otherwise nothing would be visible underneath all of those little blue dots. This is just giving you an idea of how complicated things can get very, very quickly. And bear in mind, when someone like that tablet user on a yacht in the Pacific wants to go to CNN.com, if it doesn't load within 10 seconds, and he's making allowances because he's in the middle of the Pacific, he's going to be, no, forget this, I'm going to go check out what's going on Fox or MSNBC or any one of the other competitors out there. All right. So this is what CNN has to have working in order to display properly. And if they're only using application performance monitoring, this is all they can see. Their IT team is working on logs and traces to figure out infrastructure. There's no proactive testing. They've got limited visibility into third parties or what's going on with their SaaS and PaaS applications. They've got no view as to global or regional issues where things are, and they're only getting alerts if certain preset thresholds are triggered. That's fine, and this is where we talk about the difference between availability and reachability. Someone sitting in the center here can look at CNN.com and say, well, our web servers are working, our cloud connections are working, our CMS is working. Everyone should be able to get to it fine, but not necessarily, because there's all that other stuff they're not seeing. 80% of your issues are not happening in an area that is visible with APM. It's just that simple. And then that's not a hard number for sure, but most of your issues aren't happening here where you're visualizing it. You need some form of internet performance monitoring. Now, this diagram on the side, and yeah, I'm overwhelming you with diagrams, I get it. This is the internet stack, but it's the exact same thing we just looked at, just layered. You've got your applications at the top, there's your web page, all those media servers, cloud servers as well, and then all the various pieces underneath it that everyone has to travel to. Your users are down here under the network layer. This is the last mile. This is where the users are coming in. They've got to go through that layer, through the protocols, through the internet core, then through all the other layers to get to CNN.com. If you can only see the top couple of layers, you're missing where most of the problems are happening. What you want is something that will give you full visibility into the entire internet stack. So you can, and this is important, which is why I bolded it, monitor from where it matters, from your user's perspective. If you're looking from the top out, you can only see a limited amount and you don't have a good understanding of what your users are experiencing. If you're looking from the bottom in, then you can understand the experience of your customers, of your workforce, understand your application and network and website experiences, and understand them before they start impacting your business. So here at Catchpoint, we've got an IPM platform that provides a wide variety of capabilities, including things like analytics and visibility and access to our global observability network. But the main goal that we're trying to do here is provide solutions for different types of experience. Is your network working? That's the experience. There's hard details. You can sit here and say, oh, is my DNS upside? That's not the problem, all right? You're not walking into a dealership and saying, oh, I need, the pair of Goodyear run flats for my truck. It's like, no. You're walking in and saying, people can't get to my network. What is the problem? I need a full network experience solution. I need a truck, all right? Catchpoint's able to provide 5 different types of solution. One of them is network experience, and that's the one we want to talk about today. At this point, I'm going to hand things over to Shri, and he's going to walk through this and let me know when he wants to advance. So, Shri, do you want to take it away from here?
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, I think a lot of customers we talk to, right, echo exactly what you said, right? Internet is complex, and how do we do that? And today's context is about the hybrid cloud. So I plan to do 3 things today. One is talk about a little bit about the customer journey when going to the hybrid cloud, related kind of use cases, and then follow that in the second section with a little bit of product overview, and then I will wrap it up with a demo. So beginning with the customer journey, what we have observed in our customer base is customers typically go through 3 phases when they are embarking on their journey to the hybrid cloud, right? So they typically are purely in on-prem environments, and they want to get to the cloud and hybrid cloud kind of scenarios, right? So the first thing that happens is vendor selection, because as you know, Mark, and we all know, right? There's a lot of cloud options out there, right? There is AWS, Azure, and Google are the top three, and then there is a long tail with Oracle, IBM, and others, right? But you want the cloud that satisfies the performance baselines that your applications and your customers are looking for, or your employees are looking for, right? So that's the first step in terms of the selection of the best cloud vendor, right? That suits the application. The second thing is, as Mark mentioned, the private cloud and the public cloud, or the on-prem and the public clouds, are connected via the internet, right? And there are a variety of connectivity mechanisms, which include ISPs, Cloud Direct, Connect, and whatnot, right? And how do you also want, in addition to making sure you have the best cloud option, you also want to make sure you have the best connectivity option, right? So related visibility into KPIs and troubleshooting during proof of concept, right? That's the first phase, vendor selection. The second phase, after you have selected a vendor or two for your hybrid cloud, right, from the cloud options available, you want to make sure you de-risk the deployment or rollout, right? Choosing AWS, moving workloads from on-prem to AWS or another cloud, your choice, right? So during that, what is extremely important, and as Mark pointed in the complex picture, right? There's ISPs, there is DNS, there's so many things involved, right? How can you do quick fault isolation, whether it is the on-prem or the cloud location, or is it something in the internet stack, right? Catchpoint provides that visibility. And in a moment, I think Mark will share one of the quotes we have from our customers, which directly addresses that, right? During rollout and deployment, you also want to make sure, right, you're moving from on-prem to hybrid, right? You want to make sure that the performance that you're offering to your customers and employees, right, is at least as good, or if not better, right, than what the current on-prem environment is offering, right? Once you have done the rollout and deployment, the third and the final phase is everyday operations, right? And how can you ensure the internet resilience with internet performance monitoring that Mark talked about, right? That involves visibility into different connectivity options, right, that we talked about already, right? And what we provide is proactive as well as real user monitoring in those scenarios with Catchpoint IPM solution. There's obviously incident management and ensuring SLAs that your vendors are offering. Next slide, please. So to satisfy that customer journey, our network experience solutions provides 4 different use cases. We talked about vendor selection and management, right? There's also the network reachability, fault isolation, SASE and VPN monitoring, and these are some of the use cases. So next slide, please. So now moving on to a little bit into the second section, I wanted to talk about what are the products in our portfolio, right, that map onto some of those customer journeys and use cases that we talked about, right? We have an advanced network monitoring solution that I'm going to mention 3 key highlights here. First one is our Traceroute Monitor, is one of the best in the industry. It provides a variety of different traversal mechanisms, such as quick in session, and it also traverses through cloud environments. As you can see in the picture here, our Traceroute Monitor is able to identify ECN, which is explicit congestion notification information, right? Which is very important when your networks are congested and you want to identify that, right? And there's accurate ECN is one of the new standards. Our platform already supports accurate ECN as well. The second one is around real-time BGP monitoring. So we do have a network, which I'll talk about in a moment. It's a very differentiated geo-distributed network, and we get those BGP feeds in real time, giving you the information so that when your revenue is impacted and brand is impacted, right, you are not waiting for hours to find out the information, and at a glance you can quickly find out. Last but not the least, obviously sub-second ping helps you find micro outages, and again, slow is the new down, right? How can you help your customer and employee experience by identifying that? Next slide, please. As I mentioned briefly, Catchpoint prides itself in world's largest global observability network. And that, when coupled with, in a moment, I will show you the richness of the types of tests that can be run on our platform, gives you the ability to effectively go through your hybrid cloud journey through those 3 phases, right? Whether it is vendor selection or troubleshooting during deployment or day-to-day operations. Next slide, please. I'm going to talk about another new product that we introduced recently. Internet Synthetics has been around, where we allow you to monitor the internet stack by running proactive synthetic test, whether it is for your workforce experience or customer experience, right? Whereas we recently introduced a new product called Internet Sonar, and that product is aimed at remember, Mark talked about the third-party services in the internet stack that you rely upon. So Sonar helps you identify when there is an incident. Is it me or is it one of the third-party services in that internet stack? Right. So I'll show you a demo also in a moment. But if you could go to the next slide, Mark. Thank you. So this is a quick overview of the Internet Sonar product. It gives you a global view of the internet outages for a variety of third-party services. You remember the CNN example that Mark brought up, right? You're relying on so many third-party services, right? Whether it is the internet infrastructure, such as CDN, DNS, or cloud, or whether it is some API services for credit card payment or ad serving, et cetera, right? And it's a live view, as you can. I'll show you the live demo in a moment as well. But we detect outages for hundreds of services that are monitored on our platform, right? And the richness of the billions of tests that are running on our platform, and in real-time analytics, right? We apply to those tests and identify which particular third-party services, and that leads to fewer war rooms and faster root cause, right? So with that, I think I'm going to quickly show a demo. So I'm going to begin by showing you the types of tests that we support on our platform. As you can see, there is a wide variety of tests like DNS, for example, and then we also have ping and traceroute tests from a network standpoint. Not only that, we talked about BGP and node-to-node tests, right? So a variety of tests from a testing in the hybrid cloud scenarios, right? This is a very relevant test. We call it node to node or a network mesh test. As you can see, you may have multiple data centers, some of them on-prem, some of them located within clouds in your hybrid cloud environment. As you can see, you can set up like connectivity tests for packet loss, latency, and jitter in your environment from those different data centers. And what it allows you to do is at a glance look at what is the packet loss. For example, this Bangalore to Sydney right now, those two data centers, I'm seeing a 33% packet loss, right? So giving you the ability to, at a glance, to see how your data center to data center connectivity in hybrid cloud environment is functioning, right? And the traceroute test, for example, is a very advanced traceroute monitor. It provides capabilities such as path MTU, TCP MSS, MPLS, as well as ECN and accurate ECN. And when you run the test to a certain destination, traceroute test, as you can see, we have a very rich set of monitors like ICMP, UDP, TCP. In session is something we innovated recently, and traceroute quick, obviously, we also support all of these monitors, right? So very rich set of functionality with the traceroute monitor. Now, Shri, what does it mean? You can set up the test, but how does it help us debug certain things? We talked about fault isolation, right? So for example, the same traceroute test right now, I am in the smartboard and it is showing me that on the summary tab, we give an experience score. So at a glance, you can see whether it is a network problem or it could be on-prem cloud or the public cloud, right? You have the ability to see the network connectivity between the private cloud as well as the public cloud environment, right? So at a glance, giving you an experience score. And not only that, it also gives you key events underneath, right? Now, in addition to that, the traceroute monitor also allows you to see a hop by hop on the internet when your packets are traversing through multiple ISPs, as Mark was talking about, giving you the visibility into round trip time, like, and other aspects at each hop of that, right? So as I think Mark pointed, internet is complex in those slides, right? This gives you a product visibility into what that means from a hop by hop perspective, right? So very rich set of traceroute monitor. The other product which I mentioned about is the Internet Sonar product. And what you see in the spinning globe here is the outages that Catchpoint, the billions of tests running on the Catchpoint platform, have detected uh, for certain services that you rely upon, right? And these services can be internet infrastructure services such as cloud and DNS, as you can see, Azure and AWS, for example. These could be your public clouds you are using for your hybrid cloud environments, right? DNS as well. And it gives you at a glance visibility. And not only that, this is great, it allows you to answer that question, right? Is it me or is it someone else, right? And At the same time, we have alerts and APIs using which you can integrate this information with rest of your system, right? So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Mark.
Thank you, Shri. That was very comprehensive. We just wanted to let you know that we have a lot of customers who are using Catchpoint, and they're big names you'll recognize. A lot of them, we are central to their IT operations. Our top 7 customers generate a little over 2.1 trillion in revenue and represent almost 10 trillion in market value. Big deal. Let's get a little more personal. Here's Pete Charlton, who's Vice President of IT at TM&E Services. He says, Catchpoint super impressive. I found it to be wildly useful. It saved me a considerable amount of ghost chasing. It's excellent. I think it's a total game changer from what I've observed in my 25 years in IT for the desktop support space. So long story short, we have happy customers. Why? Well, because we do 3 things that no one else really does. We monitor from where it matters. All right. Remember, I talked about monitoring from where your users are all the way through the internet stack. We also monitor what matters, the specific pieces of the internet stack that are crucial. And we help our users catch issues before they become incidents. There's that proactivity. We make it easier to see when something's starting to go wrong. And this is the holy grail of IT, stop it before it impacts your users. We are the market leaders in IPM. We pretty much defined this market segment. It's what provides internet resilience to our customers, which every business needs. I just showed earlier that APM just doesn't give you the visibility you need, and 80% of your issues are going to be outside of what APM can show you. And really, IPM is the only thing that can show you what's going to what's impacting your business at every level, and market leaders are using it. So with that said, I know we've got some questions coming in. I'll get to them in 1 second. I just want to leave this up to say, hey, you want to know more about Catchpoint? You can see it in action at catchpoint.com/guided-product-tour, or you can just learn more about network experience solution at catchpoint.com network-experience. And with that said, give us a second to take a look at some of those questions, and Shri and I will start answering them right now.
Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Hey, Mark, I love the line, slow is the new down. That is so true in this day and age. It used to be that it was not a big deal if things were moving slow, 20 years ago. Now it can be absolutely fatal if that happens. So while we prep some of these great questions we've got coming in for Mark and Shri, we've got the poll question up. Please let us know what additional information you'd like to have about the Catchpoint solution. Operators are standing by, as they say. Okay, I also want to remind you about the handouts. Catchpoint has a great solution brief available as a PDF download. Get it now while we go through those questions. Reminder that the handouts tab is right next to that questions tab in your webinar control panel. So Mark and Shri are on the line with us. Gentlemen, are you ready to get going?
Absolutely.
Okay. Terrific. Okay, first thing, first question from attendee. This is a really good one. Why does real-time BGP monitoring matter? I don't know which one of you wants to handle that.
I'll take that from a higher level. If you want to get into the details of how we do real-time BGP monitoring, I'd hand it over to Shri. But in effect, almost everyone else, and I'm qualifying that slightly because we're not aware of anyone else who's doing real-time BGP monitoring. That means that if you are looking at results from a BGP source, you're looking at information that is at least 5 minutes old, usually more like 15 minutes old. And real-time matters because, as you said, slow is the new down. Look at it this way. If you've got an issue and you know it's a BGP issue and you implement a fix, do you want to wait 15 minutes or even 5 minutes to see if that worked? Or do you want to be able to see that almost instantly and see whether or not that was the problem? Let me give you another perspective. According to Gartner, depending on the size of your organization, an outage can be costing you around $7,000 or $8,000 a minute. More if you're big, less if you're small. But if we figure about $7,000 a minute, do you want to fix that within 1 or 2 minutes, or do you want to wait 15? Or put it another way, do you want to fix your problem for the cost of a moped, or do you want to fix your problem for the cost of a Porsche?
Well, let me think.
That's why it's kind of important.
Absolutely. Okay. Shri, this one might be a good one for you because you mentioned this in your presentation. Is Internet Sonar, which you discussed, reliant upon the tests I've set up? What if I'm not testing some of those third parties?
Yeah, certainly. Internet Sonar relies on different data sources. And some of the tests that we have set up, that is one of the data sources. So if customers tell us that they are interested in a specific service, we can certainly add tests for those. The second data source is we also use information, anonymized information from billions of tests that run on our platform. So there is a very good chance that the service that you're interested in is being tested in that second source, right? And the third source is we also look at the status pages from providers, whereby we can get information if a cloud provider in the hybrid cloud scenario is down, right? We get that information as well. So there's a very highly likely chance that your service you're interested in already monitored by Sonar, but we work closely with our customers. If some of the services are not present, they can be easily added as well.
Okay, great, great. And I think we have time to squeeze in one more quick question today before we let you both go. And I don't know who this would go to, so either one of you speak up. And the question is this: is AI going to simplify the internet or add more complexity? A nice simple one to end with today. What do you say?
Yeah, okay. Have we got another half hour prepared for the answer to this one? I'm going to provide an unsatisfying answer because the unsatisfying answer is yes to both. On one hand, absolutely, AI is going to make everything more complicated. But to be honest, the internet is getting more complicated as we speak. There's always going to be complexity. AI is also being applied to narrow down that complexity and make it easier to handle. And I wish I could remember the Gartner report I read it in, but they did say one of the biggest things that's going to impact the average person in the near future is not ChatGPT or similar, AI stuff, but AI working behind the scenes. And in fact, I'll give you an example based on our Internet Sonar. Shri was just talking about how we're anonymizing all of the tests that our customers are using across the network to provide data for Internet Sonar. What that means is on a daily basis, we're talking millions of tests and billions of discrete data points. And Internet Sonar uses AI to an AI analysis platform to narrow all of that down, filter out the false positives, and come up with all those little dots you saw on the globe. It's going, hey, I've done 5,000 different data points, and I am pretty sure, and I'm actually certain that this service is out in these 4 areas. Everything can be drilled down into the original data, but we're making it a lot easier to do things like that. Another perfect example is and we didn't really show this, but we narrowed down experience scores into a really simple gauge on all of our smart boards. So for example, if you're using our customer experience solution, you have a smart board that will tell you, here's your customer experience score. And it's going to be out of 100, and it's going to be nice, simple, color-coded, and it's going to be a percentage. And it's an easy way to glance and go, oh, that's yellow or red. I've got a problem. I need to look at it. That's not just a guess. That's AI analysis that is being run on all of the different tests and all the different data points that you're applying to your particular customer base. So that's all going on the background, and it's making things a little bit simpler. And I've seen a lot of other AI solutions from similar vendors in the networking industry that are all aimed at making things easier to understand and giving a high level, here's what's important, or here's how to find the valuable stuff out of the chaff. But there's still a lot more chaff, and there's going to be a lot more going on constantly. So the short answer is it will make things easier. The long answer is it is going to add more complexity, but hopefully it's going to mitigate it. I will caution, and we've been saying this, and again, straight from Gartner's mouth in a conference in December, when it comes to AI, distrust but verify, and the devil is in the details. No matter what you're doing, you always want to be able to get at that underlying data to make sure that what AI is telling you is actually something that's accurate and that you can be backed up.
Great advice. Great advice, Mark. Thank you so much for that comprehensive answer. Well, we're going to have to cut you both loose right now. I did want to mention we've got more questions coming in following that great presentation, and that Catchpoint will be sure to follow up with all questions that we didn't get to today. So don't worry, folks, if your question didn't get answered during this session, they will be in touch. So Mark and Shri, I just enjoyed this so much today, learning about Catchpoint and finding out what fantastic fantastic stuff you're doing. Thanks for being on.
Thanks very much for having us.
Likewise. Yeah. Thank you.